Okay, folks are still trickling in, but let's go ahead and get started. Thanks again for everybody joining today. I'm Eric Cox. I'm a member of the Netcapital team. I'm joined today with Eric Slaba with FCP Insights, the CEO, running the firm here. As always, the companies on the line here today are actively raising capital on the Netcapital platform. Please do go ahead and check out the link that I'm adding into the chat feature right now. There it is. You can go to netcapital.com/companies/FCP Insight, or you go to netcapital.com and search FCP Insight, or you can select the link that I added into the chat feature there. Some quick housekeeping. Please do use the Q&A feature built into Zoom. I know there's also a chat feature. I'm going to use the chat to share some links with you folks, but please do use the Q&A feature to make sure we get to as many of your questions as possible. And please do ask your questions. That's what we're here for. We want to keep this as interactive as possible. So please do ask your questions, and we'll get to as many of them as we possibly can. So with all that being said, please help me join and welcoming Eric to the line here to tell us about FCP Insights. Eric, tell me a little bit about what you're building here.
Yeah, we've built a ERP system that's integrated with QuickBooks that serves the specialty contracting industry, and it's been done over about a 20-year period in a sibling organization. We turned it into a robust, adaptable, and responsive platform, SaaS model, Amazon Web Services hosted. The nice thing is that we can adapt the different processes and procedures to an individual company's naming nomenclatures and things without having to use programmers to do that. So it's really flexible and really stems from CRM to estimating onto sales funnel management, award of project management, real-time job costing, WIP report, all of those things. So it's a really robust tool.
Absolutely. And before I dig too deep into the problem and the solution that you guys have built and are continuing to develop, can you tell us a little bit about your background? How did you get involved with FCP? And then we'll talk about some of the other members on your team as well. But who's Eric?
Yeah, thank you, Eric. So I am an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, been a member of the Entrepreneurs Organization since 1997. Took over a failing family business in the construction industry in 1987 and took it from negative $78,000 owner's equity 3-2 payables to receivables, not a great scenario, to the $15 million plus organization it is today. In 2001, I was at the Birthing of Giants program that Vern Harnish was running at MIT and at the Endicott House. And Vern asked a question, what is the major issue in your industry that if you could go spend $1 million to fix, it would be $1 billion solution? And at the time, our industry did not have any unified information technology platforms to work with. Most people were doing estimates and spreadsheets, and many still are, actually, strangely enough. Construction is one of the least automated industries in the world, although we're getting a little better these days. But it's just, I sat down and I said, I really want to build a system that is holistic from start to finish for my industry. And recruited Kevin Delargy about 6 months later, our CTO for FCP, and we got to work and built something pretty cool. So.
Absolutely. And I know there are a couple other team members that I want to dig into, but I'm going to circle back to some of the rest of the team. For those who are unfamiliar, actually, no, let's stick with the team for a little bit longer. You talked about Kevin. That was a great addition as CTO. And I know you also have some pretty important kind of investors, advisors, and other supporters on the team. Anybody else that you'd like to mention that are helping build out the platform? And then we'll go into problems.
Well, the cool thing about building out the platform is our customers continue to bring us, hey, can you? Hey, it'd be really neat if, or I'd like to be able to run this report, and if I could just build my own report, can we build our own proposal format and have it auto fill? And so the cool thing is we keep meeting the needs of the customers, and we can be pretty proactive about a lot of what we're being asked to do these days, which is awesome. Torstein's been my mentor and a member of our board since we formed the company. Tor's been my mentor actually going back to 2001. Tor served on a number of boards publicly, and Yeah, so Jen runs marketing for both of my organizations, which actually controls costs some, which is good. And we've got some external marketing team that we work with. And so, yeah, a lot of fun, number of developers, and we're onboarding customers. So it's been good.
No, that's fantastic. Great team. Got to meet Tor a couple times. Jen is fantastic. I know she's on in the background there somewhere. Oh, actually attending as well. Hey, Jen. Um, and for folks who are unfamiliar with how big of a problem this is, can we take a deep dive into this problem in this industry, and then let's take another moment to talk about your solution with FCP.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, construction, the the construction industry really still is, even today, one of the least automated industries in the world. And the interesting thing is that because because pricing is a specific issue, estimating for whatever industry or trade that we're in is different between um, uh, trades, electrical versus mechanical, et cetera. It poses some real problems to build out effective tools for the industry. But work in progress is something that manufacturers deal with and construction companies deal with. We have to be able to monitor, preferably real time, how are we on our work in progress? How much of what we said we were going to get done did we get done? What are we billing for? What is the schedule of values for billing? And then, for many of us, we have ongoing service and maintenance on the back end. And so we install something. For ABSCO, it's video surveillance and access control, fire life safety, things of that nature for large venues like Lumen Field, and a lot of stuff for the Navy and hospitals and things of that nature. Once we've done that, we then have to maintain those systems and keep them up and running for years to come. And so that having that service piece on the back end is critical as well. The challenge is there's some really good companies that have built some really good product around one of those two aspects. They're good project management tools, or they can keep job costing effectively for large projects and schedule values, or they're really good service products that will meet the need of a 30-day billing cycle for stuff that gets closed out in 30 days or less. But finding something that's really good at both is really, really difficult to do. So,
Yeah, and in terms of the kind of the resource planning component, is there one feature that you feel like has become like your kind of your fan favorite? Is there something that you're such a good job of getting the feedback loop from your customers, but are there a handful of features that you just kind of hear again and again that this is really the part that helps them continue to work with you?
yeah, so there's a couple of things. One, the flexibility, the fact that we can, I don't want to use the term dumb the system down, but it's almost appropriate. We can minimize the amount of interaction somebody has to have with the system based on their role. And we can, based on a company, we can narrow down what's on any given screen to what the company information is that they really want. And we're able to provision, read, write capabilities based on roles. So, one of the things that when we talk to people, QuickBooks is a decent accounting system, and a fair percentage of the marketplace is, I think it's like 65% adoption across the marketplace. But the challenge is none of us want to give, technicians out in the field or laborers out in the field access to QuickBooks because we don't want them in the accounting system. But at the same time, we want to give them visibility into what inventory exists, how many hours they've used up on their job versus how many hours they have. We want to give them real-time reporting and give them access to really meaningful and deep information that's necessary for them to execute their work. And so it's really being able to give the right people the right information at the right time and not give them a situation where they're going to do harm to the accounting program. It's just absolutely vital. I think the other thing that we've done really well that I keep getting really positive feedback on is the way we build proposals in the system. It has really sped the process up. And so, in our industry, salespeople who do $1 to $2 million are considered highly successful. We've got salespeople working at ABSCO that do 4 or 5 million just because of the efficiency of the system. So it allows them to spend more time with customers and not building bids. So, yeah.
Absolutely, really kind of make each individual component that much more effective and efficient. And at a whole, I get you, it really kind of stacks up even more than the sum of the parts, I imagine.
Yeah, it's really funny. We just did a demo last Friday. I was talking with a friend who I've known. He used to be one of our vendors for many, many years, and he's now working with an integrator and was looking for a product to run their system on, and was looking at what we did, and things like not having proposals duplicated multiple times, showing up in the sales funnel multiple times, but just once. He's like, oh my gosh, yeah, so many systems get that one wrong. And showing him how we duplicate notes and equipment lists and all that on proposals, he's like, oh my gosh, that'll speed that up so much. So yeah, real benefits to those things. And then that's part of the benefit is having having a company that uses a system every day and going, what can we do better? What can we do more efficiently with real-time users giving real-time feedback has allowed us to really build something that is a positive. So.
Absolutely. I know you have some testimonials on your offering page, so if anybody hasn't seen those, definitely do pop over there and check those out. The one from Elmore Electric, I think, was particularly insightful, so I definitely encourage folks to check that out. Love seeing positive feedback from the customer side.
Yeah, Joe's a longtime fan. Early on, when we brought Elmore on, we were able to work with him to have a bunch of his past projects going back decades scanned, and then correlate all that information so that he could get to it quickly. It was, it could take hours to find the right file in some cabinet somewhere, and then all of a sudden it took seconds to find the right file attached to the right job in the system. It was pretty cool. So.
Yeah, exactly. Big swing. And he's actually on the line right now. So thanks.
Oh,
Hey,
hey,
hey, hey there,
hey,
Joe. Just
Joe.
saw the chat.
Yeah, Joe, good to see you there, man.
Awesome, awesome. Shout out to Joe and Elmore Electric.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about how big of a market this is, because there's actually a lot more people in this space than I think people fully appreciate, and there's a real opportunity in terms of market size here. So let's take a little bit of a deep dive on the market here.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's multi-billions of dollars. And some of the major players in the marketplace, there are a couple of 800-pound gorillas, like I said, who do segments of the market really well. I mean, Procore would be a great example, does project management exceptionally well. And some of the reporting in Procore is just absolutely phenomenal. And then you've got like Service Titan that does the service aspect really well. The challenge is finding a product that does start to finish really well. And yeah, 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 I love it. Joe refers to the system as Elmore Business System. I love that. That's funny. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's a very large marketplace, and the market cap on several of those companies is in the hundreds of millions and or billions of dollars. And several of them have raised just huge capital in the marketplace. So, and that's the great thing about SaaS models too, right? I mean, the world's kind of moving to a consumption basis of recurring revenue to make businesses more stable, which I think is wonderful. It's one of the things I love about the life safety and security industry is that we have recurring revenues, service and monitoring and things of that nature. SaaS model for an ERP is just a wonderful way to build a business. So
Yeah, and that's perfect transition as I want to dig into the revenue model here. But one of the things about the market that's super exciting is expected to grow, excuse me, from 2022 at a cumulative or compound annual growth rate of about 11%. So solid, and that's according to Business Wire, solid, kind of really big market size and continuing to grow at a pretty healthy clip, according
yeah,
to Business Wire.
yeah.
So you mentioned the revenue model, B2B SaaS, what a great opportunity to be, what a great revenue model for this type of company. Can you tell us a little bit about, kind of how FCP Insights makes money?
Yeah, it's literally monthly recurring revenue. Our typical customer is going to be north of $1,500 a month. We are in the process of building out a free version of the estimating tool with a light CRM, so that we can get early adoption for people who are just looking for something to use for estimating and things. We know that if we capture a company early on at that stage, we have a high likelihood of converting them down the road. And so we'll be coming out with that, I think, at the end of June. And yeah, it's number of it's seats and users. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. and that fits so well into this type of business. I want to remind folks that we're on the line with FCP Insights, and you too can invest. You can go directly to the link that I shared into the chat feature. I'm going to go ahead and add that again now, or you can go to netcapital.com and search for FCP Insights, or you can go directly to netcapital.com/company/FCP Insight. That's where you can learn more, review the offering page, and if you're so inclined, you too can invest. That was kind of an opportunity to transition over to the competitive analysis. So I put in that shameless plug as we transition to like other players. We did a lot of talking about what FCP does. Are there other players in the space? You mentioned a couple of 800-pound gorillas, but none of them seem to do kind of feature all of the features. But let's talk about the competitive landscape for a moment.
Yeah, I mean, there are a number of companies that are in some aspect of the construction industry, and there are various tools that, as good as we get, things like Bluebeam being able to do markups and takeoffs. There are tools that no matter who it is, having those other tools are still a necessary aspect depending on what you do. And again, yeah, I mean, I think Procore and Service Titan are two of those 800-pound gorillas that are in the marketplace. But again, one of them does service incredibly well. They do the 30-day window. But I signed up for myself. I signed up for one of their demos, and like if I had to replace my own product, could I? And when I signed up with one of the competitors, we got about 10 minutes in, and they went, "Oh wait, you do prevailing wage, you do government projects, you do schedule of values, billings, and you do service work." It's like, okay, yeah, you don't want our product. You will hate our workflow. And it was like, oh well, I appreciate your honesty. Thank you so much. So yeah, I mean, it's having that product that does both well, especially when you're using common resources. I mean, one of our challenges for Absco is that the technician who does the install may be the technician who's doing the service call tomorrow afternoon, just based on their skill set and what they're trained on and what products they're trained on, et cetera. And so being able to use that skill set in a common scheduling platform is absolutely critical. And so that, there's just not a lot of people that do that great. But, there are other aspects too. I mean, some people are playing in the, hey, we do time cards online. Okay, we do too. Hey, we do scheduling. That's our niche. And it's like, well, that's great. We do too. I mean, we do all of that and a whole bunch more. And yeah, so it's a good opportunity.
And it feels like it's a good kind of healthy competition in the ecosystem here right now, even with the bigger players. Can you talk about some of your kind of IP strategy or anything that you have in terms of defensibility? I think a lot of it is kind of more kind of keeping your secret sauce to kind of close to your chest is more of a kind of instead of going through the patent route. But if you want to just share any big broad strokes about your IP strategy and defensibility.
Yeah, I mean, our IP is all copyrighted, obviously, but as far as defensibility, having the ability to turn on and off the different aspects of the system in a very modular way. I mean, like literally, you don't want this data field on this screen, we can remove it, right? And being able to create, and the other thing is being able to change naming nomenclatures. So I call it project and you call it job. Okay, great. We'll call it job on your version. We'll change it like 2 seconds to do it, and we'll show you how to do it so that we don't have to do it. I mean, like it's really interesting when you create, and especially when you can mimic existing workflow processes that may be, hey, I do my bid on a spreadsheet and the spreadsheet looks like this. Okay, great. We can give you a screen that looks like that if that's what you really need. When we can mimic those things and keep a company's workflow relatively consistent, they don't want to leave after that, especially if they're going to have to pay tens of thousands of dollars to have a programmer come in and customize a piece of software for them. And so many of the systems, and I've heard this, about all of it. Salesforce obviously is one, huge CRM globally, but there are so many people who use so little of the system, and to get it to the point that it's exactly what somebody wants to see on their screen can be challenging. And so making that easy, I think, is a huge advantage.
And some of those CRMs are incredibly expensive, to be using just a small fraction of some of those really expensive resources. That doesn't make a ton of sense for SMBs.
No, not at all. Not at all. And that, that's one of the great things is when we can make it like this is what you need to see on your screen, and this is what you have access to, and even do that down to yes, the individual screen is going to be the same for the company because the information needs to be there, but being able to pare that down for individual users as to what they see as their experience is really valuable. Like, don't overwhelm people with stuff they don't need to engage in, right?
Yeah. Oh man, paralysis by analysis. If you add too many features in there, it's like a big heavy menu. It's just too many pieces to decide between, and lots of folks are like, all right, we're just trying something else.
Yeah, yeah. And yet, look, if I need to know where the equipment is or where the materials are, having that readily available because that's my job is really valuable.
Yeah,
So.
even if not everybody has access to that same information. And I imagine, kind of even just like bifurcating information or trifurcating information, making so that different groups have access to different data in the world of cybersecurity. That's got to be really important going forward.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, there's another really good commentary early on because Absco has various teams with various levels of engagement and clearance and NDAs on jobs and all of that. The other nice thing is we've created it in such a way that you can make it so that people literally don't know that something exists. As far as they're concerned, in the system, it doesn't exist, and so we have at Absco and for FCP, we use some BPO team members over in Manila. And so there are things that we can't allow to be seen overseas at Absco. And, with FCP, we can allow the team overseas to see whatever, but not with customer data and not with Absco's data. So, yeah.
No, that's super impressive. I imagine, especially with bigger teams, and Apple's the one that comes to mind, but I know they are very good at, like, for example, for the Vision Pro, the people working on the audio pods didn't communicate with people working on the lenses, didn't communicate with people working on other hardware components. And that was really important and strategic for them in terms of managing the information flow. So the ability to kind of have certain people, exactly what you need for your role, but not too much. I think more people will be interested in that type of a service. Um, you've had some really great highlights over the last year, and I want to dig into some of them. Not the least of which is growing monthly recurring revenue over 15x during 2023. What are some of the other highlights that we could talk about for your successes today? 'Cause that's a really promising one.
Yeah. Again, I think getting this freeware version of the estimating tool is going to be a significant growth opportunity for us. And I know people go, wait a second, you're giving it away for free. Like, yeah, it's really easy to get people to adopt stuff that's free. The nice thing is that it's one of those things where if somebody's doing all of their proposals in our system, there is a high likelihood that once a proposal awards, they're going to want the stuff behind that that allows them to, I hate the word gateway drug, but it's kind of a gateway drug for using an ERP system. And when you've got people who are, I think corporate inertia is one of the big challenges for so many organizations. Well, I've done it this way for 30 years. Well, okay. And how's that serving you? Well, we grow 5% a year over year. How'd you like to grow 20% next year? How about 40%? Our Absco's best year here 2, 3 years ago, 60% sales growth year over year, organically. That's not a small feat. Yeah, I think that coming online is going to be huge. The new tools for scheduling and the visibility into individual schedules to be able to identify where we have holes in underutilized labor and allowing that between two different departments to see everybody that they need to see. Huge step forward for what we're doing. So yeah, there's been some really cool things. And then obviously we're doing this raise, and we've also got a marketer that we're working with that does intense search, which I think is going to pay some significant dividends.
I think so. I think so. That sounds great. And you're talking about the fundraise, already raised over 700,000 before this round, before this six-figure round. So
Yeah.
that's a great traction piece. And then, in a matter of a couple months between February and June of last year, growing revenue almost 1,500%. That's really exciting work too. And I imagine a big piece of that is just, providing excellent service to your clients, keeping these people positive, folks that are showing up to your webinar, evangelizing others. Do you think there's other pieces of the secret sauce that have allowed you to grow revenue so much over last year?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is we haven't lost any customers at any point. We haven't lost any users, which is interesting because the construction industry goes through cycles and people get laid off, and companies downsize on occasion. So the revenue has been consistent from that standpoint. So yeah, I think I think once you're in the system and you're using it in whatever way your company chooses to use it, it's one of those things that it's robust enough and touches so many aspects. I think it's funny. I'm reading one of Joe's, and every employee is able to take advantage of its features. I'm reading that in Joe's comments on the webinar chat. It's absolutely true. It's just absolutely absolutely awesome that we can give the right people the right information at the right time for their role, and no more, no less. So it's just a matter of dialing it in. I think that keeps it very sticky as far as I would never want to retrain my entire organization on a new piece of software from scratch. Yeah. So
And the idea of having like virtually no churn or turnover or loss of folks. And again, as you roll out the freemium features, those numbers might shift a little bit, but ultimately, acquiring more customers could make sense, even if it's not pure 100% retention. But I mean, the ability
yeah,
to keep those paid users satisfied, that's on my
I,
end. It's amazing.
I would anticipate that we will see some churn when we have the free version. And I mean, I just, if we don't have any, we're not hitting enough people. Because there are going to be some people who are just out there and they're going to kick the tires, and because it was free, and I've signed up for software and used it for 5 minutes and never went back, and kept looking. So I would expect that some of that is going to happen. I don't expect, unless a company gets sold or somebody retires and walks away, I just don't see where we're going to lose a lot of customers, because I think once you're on the system, it's so vital to the organizations it serves that people just aren't going anywhere. So
Yeah, that stickiness, that is such a dream. Everybody's trying to create sticky products. So the ability for you to get out there into market and create that stickiness early is really promising.
yeah.
And I got another good quote coming in from the webinar chat here. Love that FCP provides the right info to the right people for our customers. The team works hard to onboard new customers smoothly and ensure the platform really meets their needs. So all sorts of positive feedback coming in through the chat. Thanks for the attendees.
I will qualify that. That is our director of marketing. So Jen, thank you.
Well, that's the
It's
same
accurate.
Jen. Okay,
It's accurate, but in full disclosure, appreciate Jen's comment. That's
a
awesome.
little bit of an insider. Okay, so that's the Jen. Hey there, Jen. Good, good,
Yeah.
good. Um, as we talked about, so great traction in the past so far, and we're getting towards the end of our programming here. So actually, before I get into the future, let me do another reminder that we're on the line with Eric here at FCP Insight. You can go ahead and check out their offering page on netcapital.com. You can click the link that I just added into the chat, or you can go to netcapital.com and search FCP Insight, or you can go directly to netcapital.com/companies/FCP Insight. And then I'm going to read this one and we can get to that in just a moment. But for now, let's talk a little bit about what you imagine the future is. And I'm going to do this every single time I speak with folks. The future is inherently speculative and uncertain. We do not know what the future holds, but, talk about all the exciting things that have already happened in 2023. What do we think about 2024 and the future? And I imagine, a big piece of that is that kind of freemium component. And then any other things you'd like to elaborate on there for the future, would love to share with folks.
Yeah, I think the intent search is going to be huge. AI is doing such a wonderful job. I think the other thing is we're starting to look at how do we lay AI into the system itself to provide better information on. And strangely enough, it's not that many lines of code. But how do we engage AI in a meaningful way that allows us to look at hey, based on this customer, this type of project, doing this thing, here are the last 9 jobs you did that look similar. Here's the projects that made money. Here's the projects that were losers. Here's the difference between the two. By the way, here's the technicians who ran these jobs, and here's the technicians who ran these jobs. And if they're the same tech, then obviously there was a difference in project. But if, two different sets of teams, maybe we want to put the A team on that one and save the B team for, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a B team. They may just not have the skill sets for that particular scope of work. Save them for something that they're really good at. So I think AI in the next 6-8 months is going to play a role in what we do. I will say this: I never like selling something I don't have in hand. So all of this is subject to change and all that, but we have a real vision for where this is going to go, and we're really excited to keep executing against it. And I think the other thing that we're really starting to explore inside of AppSco, and that I think is going to, like, we already know we can do a bunch of this stuff, but time gets scheduled right now on proposals, and then is shown for work phases based on the work phases of an individual construction industry item. So for AppSco, it's pre-wire, trim device, trim head end, programming, inspection, things of that nature. The really cool thing is taking I have 180 of this item and sitting it on a pivot table and being able to quickly and rapidly assign it to somebody for a scope of work to be performed on a particular day, that they can hit the checklist, I did this, and have it auto-generate schedule of values and have it auto-generate work in progress. And I think that will be there by the end of this year for sure, but I think sooner than the end of the year. I think it's probably Q3.
Just
So
really, really decreasing the administrative burden on all the stakeholders and the kind of the flow process here. That seems super helpful.
well, and really, we can gamify it at that point, right? Like, hey, the average person takes this much time to do what's been assigned to you. And you did it in X. Congratulations. Yeah, I mean, like, like, I
Insert
don't know about
reward.
you, this damn thing, right? Like, have you filled your circles yet? I haven't, but I'm gonna. Like, you know so yeah, the more that we can gamify and bring reward and acknowledge achievement and all of that, I think the better and the stickier it continues to get.
All
So
about user experience and stickiness. The gamification, I think, would be awesome. And then on the AI trend, this will be a data-rich company with lots of cool moving parts and pieces. And I think a lot of folks, even outside of this specific space, would be interested in being able to access some of that data and better understand kind of performance improvements. And maybe, this is a big maybe, but God willing, then we can have more projects on time and under budget. That seems like a dream come true.
that would definitely be a continuing, ongoing dream come true. Yeah, I will say this: we are committed to making sure that the customer's data is protected as we get significant aggregate data across a large swath of an industry. Then yes, it might be worth publishing. Average time to do X is this for the benefit of all of the users of the software. So.
Yeah, collaborative tool, but more information, more transparency a little bit. Joe said, all of our past projects are in the system. We could very quickly and easily pull up similar past jobs and create new proposals. Very powerful for us. So that's coming straight from the horse's mouth.
I'll tell you what, Joe, thank you so much for being on today. This is awesome. I really
Yeah,
appreciate it.
you might owe Joe a coffee. I'm not sure.
Might even be lunch at the Columbia Tower Club at this point. Yeah, but I gotta be honest. That right there is why we're doing this. I remember when I did not have good data at my fingertips, and it was put a finger in the wind and hope we bid it right. And I didn't know. When we first started working on this, it was because we had a long tenured customer that we forgot to pull a permit for because we didn't have effective workflow. And it's like, we can never do this again. This cannot be the norm. Like, so this is, yeah, it's why we do what we're doing. So
Absolutely. Making it easy for those automations and reduce that burden. That's fantastic that people are feeling that way. Um, And then, yeah, I love that kind of commitment to the protecting of the data as well. It's really, the data will largely benefit the client. And then as an industry, I think everybody kind of rising tide lifts all ships kind of thing. Um,
Yeah.
as we
Yeah.
transition
Well, I
over
will
a little,
say,
yeah, please go
yeah,
ahead.
I will say this. We've got a customer portal that we've rolled out to a couple of customers on a beta test right now. That's a customer's customer portal. So it's the, hey, I want to give my customer as Absco the ability to go in and see what are the open service calls and what are the open projects. And so we've got a couple of customers at Absco that are 30+ year customers that we've provided access to that we're beta testing the customer's customer portal to see that if we can grow the ecosystem and give clients of our clients some benefit as well.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Um, and we always include the use of proceeds, the kind of expected use of proceeds on the offering page. Folks can go there and check that out. But I'm always happy to see when the bulk of the funds raised are expected to go towards software development, sales, and marketing. Right? We're going to improve the product and we're going to acquire customers. So let's talk a little bit about that.
Quite literally, I don't draw a salary from FCP. So quite literally, it is going to software development and acquiring customers, sales and marketing. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
And I think
So
that's something that investors, if you didn't notice that little detail inside the offering page, I think that's something that's helpful for folks to know. And I think that is usually something that investors are happy to see, that you're kind of that committed, a lot of sweat equity, you're committed, you're incentivized by equity here. It's not just drawing a paycheck. You're really here for the
yeah,
long
no,
haul.
well, yeah, and have been in it for like I said, we started this 20 years ago, and I have continued to invest in the software, as much because it benefits Absco every single day. It is just a vital part of what we do, and it allows it. In the first year we started the software platform, it allowed me to cut $200,000 worth of payroll expenses, and then it allowed us to scale without having to add all the people that we figured we were going to have to add just to keep the handle on things. So yeah, it's absolutely something that I'm personally committed to seeing through to the end.
It feels
Yeah.
like it's such a tricky balance too, because at the time of making the proposal, you have to make sure that you simultaneously don't over inflate the cost or overestimate the cost to the point where you just lose out on the bid altogether. But almost sounds like maybe even more detrimentally could be committing to a project at under budget, miss and kind of underestimating the cost of the project, performing in the project, and then just kind of taking a bath under the project. I'm not sure. It feels like both are pretty bad, but that latter one is concerning.
So it's really funny. They found a scroll in ancient Egypt, and this is not an exaggeration. And it's literally an architect speaking about having won the commission from Pharaoh, and then cursing the fact that he won the commission from Pharaoh, because it's like, oh my goodness, what have we just gotten ourselves into? On the one hand, you're trying so hard to win it, and then on the other hand, when you do, it's like, okay, but is this going to be the thing that puts us out of business because we didn't bid it right? And so, yes, this is an age-old challenge that mankind has faced.
Absolutely. We've seen that in all sorts of different industries, like with Kickstarters, for example, where people are super excited. They have this projection amount, they raise the capital, they go and take the money over to the provider, kind of misunderstood some things, or maybe got a little, kind of maybe a little bit less conservative than they should have been, and then ultimately need to kind of reconcile that gap between the money you already took and the money that you need. So I love that example. I'm gonna have to do a deep dive on the ancient Egypt example, but that seems like one of the trickiest concerns. And if you got better and better data, especially if you're able to kind of tap into anonymized data from other companies, maybe, and just better understanding how to meet the market and then the equilibrium in the market, that's actually the dream come true.
Yeah, it really is. I'll tell you, it's inside I still have oversight of how is Absco doing, right? Like, how's our sales team doing? Where are we at? And it's really interesting because I will pull a report, live data, just looking at Absco's numbers, and I'll call mid-level manager and start asking them some questions like, "How's this going?" And they're like, "Oh, I think." I'm like, "Wow, you haven't looked at the system here in a couple of days, have you?" Like, well, let's have a
As soon as you
conversation
hear,
about
I think, huh? Because you definitely know this. As soon as
that, right? Look, I'm not trying to catch anybody off guard, but what I want to know is, like, are you on top of your game or are you not? And it's really awesome to have that readily available to pay attention to. So
So cool. That's so cool. And I think it's going to benefit every piece of the puzzle, all the way down to really just understanding how the individual labor goes into, creating value in the ecosystem. Um,
yeah.
Joe says we doubled in size of employees and projects while keeping our support staff at the same level, 3.5 full-time employees, without crushing them with workload. So really kind of sounds like optimizing for the team that you have and being able to grow from there. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, Joe, I'm overjoyed to hear that. And to his point, like growing 60% year over year, like it still hurt because we didn't grow necessarily our operations team as quickly as we needed to, but just we still had a handle on where things were. Like being able to see it readily available and being able to run whip report real time. And I talked to our CPAs and they're like, oh yeah, we've got companies that take 6 days to run their whip report. It's like 6 days, and those are not inexpensive people that are working on it. It's like, holy crap.
Wow, that could be a big swing cutting that down to. What do you think the alternative? Again, working with your system, how long does that take?
Uh, you know, it takes about 10 minutes to generate all the data. And I will say this, once you have the data, like, you know, occasionally I find it really interesting. Occasionally we'll run a live work in progress, or we'll look at projects, and it'll show, hey, we've utilized 27% of the labor available on this project, but it still shows the job is 0% done. Right? Is like, is it though? Like, did a project manager forget to update the system maybe? And the nice thing is it changes colors in the background. So you can go, oh, hey, why don't you fix that? So, there's times that you run the report and you go, oh, well, these 17 jobs, we actually need to make some phone calls on and have somebody fix it. And then we need to run the report again and take another 10 minutes. But you can spot those things pretty quickly. So
That's impressive. So you could really easily tell, like, hey, we got to look into this one. This one is, performing the way it's supposed to be performing, or this one is clearly we need to update some of the data before we run the report on this.
yeah, and the flip side is true too. Like, hey, we're 100% done, and we only used 47% of the labor. Like, how? Like, did we actually do everything we said we did? Uh, so yeah, it's nice to be able to see those anomalies and tackle them. So
Absolutely. And it almost feels like there's a big CYA application here too, where you just don't have to just having that checkbox next to an environmental impact study or some type of report, just being able to know that somebody went through and physically acknowledged that that was completed. Back to your point where there was just something not properly filed, that can really, have some major consequences over time.
yeah, being able to run the reports and see, hey, all of these things have been taken care of. You just mentioned something else. One of the things that's really cool is with from inception, make it a lead or a proposal, all the way through the completion of a project, we can create a standard folder tree that these are the documents we expect to see typically on a project. You can add, once that folder tree exists, you can add other folders to it. But the nice thing is a common notation of what we should be able to see. And then next to every single one of those folders, it shows the quantity of items in the substack of the folder that exist. I talked to a multi-billion-dollar GC about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and he was like, that one feature would save me so many headaches.
Wow.
Um, and it's because they have like 90 folders in their folder tree, and none of it lists whether or not there's anything in any of them. And so they literally have to go in and out of every single folder depending on like who ran this job and what was their
Oh,
filing system.
wow. What a nightmare.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, you need to find that environmental impact statement, which should probably be in the environmental impact statement folder. But hey, it didn't get put there. But there's 3 items in this other folder we might want to go look at. Really valuable.
That's fantastic. Okay, cool. I'm glad. So yeah, we're just kind of coming up with other pieces of the puzzle that we want to make sure folks understand. That's killer. Um, we're getting towards the end of our time together here, so please continue to ask your questions in the Q&A and share your commentary. It's been so great. I'm going to do a couple more forward-looking things. So I'm going to do another quick disclosure. The future is inherently uncertain and speculative. But let's talk a little bit about what we imagine exit strategies could be. Theoretically in the future, where do you imagine are probably the most likely exit strategies, with obviously that big caveat that we're just not 100% sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two or three scenarios. It's get ARR above $1 million and explore what the valuation of the platform is at that point. I know that some people have who are in this space that do just estimating, or they do some aspect but they've had success and they've raised some capital. The numbers have been kind of stupid that have been thrown out. If hey, if you've got a true ERP that gets to $1 million plus ARR, here's a number we would throw at you. I got to be honest, I don't know that I would throw that kind of number around, but they seem to understand that better than I do. The second piece is, okay, at that point, do you, instead of taking the check, do you go out and raise substantial funds to really start doing a heavy lift on marketing, knowing that if you can go from $1 million to 10 million, then the multiples change. And then the last piece is, at what point does it churn enough cash flow that the dividends make investors happy? And any one of those three scenarios would be a reasonable scenario. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm looking forward to having some decisions to make down the road. So.
Yeah. And I love that you're keeping all your options open. You have a real clear understanding of some of the major, most likely options, but really kind of being, adaptable. I think it's such an important feature of entrepreneurs going through this process. So I think just the idea of being able to kind of open to it, no ego. You don't have to be the CEO that takes it public or pats yourself on the back. It feels like it's really just what's the best for the shareholders.
Yeah, I really don't need to take it public. I mean, if that happened, that would be great. But that is not, and I think there are other CEOs that would probably be better suited to taking a company public than I would be. But I could see building this into a 10 million ARR company and, figuring out with the board what is the best choice to make. So, and I've got some significant personal net worth tied up in the companies, and look forward to having those choices to make.
That's exciting. The humility, look at that, ready to kind of usher on the next generation if need be. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
I think the last little bit here, and I want to talk about closing remarks about why now is the great time to go over to Netcapital and invest. But before we do that, I do love encouraging folks to share. Obviously, we're in the middle of a fundraise right now. You've raised capital successfully in the past. You're already over 6 figures in this fundraise. What outside of cash, how can folks on the line or people that review this recording, how can they support you and the FCP Insight company?
Yeah, Eric, I really appreciate that question, because I'm as interested in as much as people invest in cash. I'm as interested in, if you know somebody who's running a low voltage or standard electrical contracting company that has not automated their systems. I'd love to have the opportunity to talk with them and show them what we've built, and get their insights and share ours. And and part of this, I think part of this is what EO is so good about, the Entrepreneurs Organization or the Young Presidents Organization, Vistage. I think entrepreneurs and strong CEOs, business leaders, really want to share quality ideas with one another and just help each other be better at what we do, right? Like, so many people rely on us to make good decisions and to run effective businesses for their family's well-being. And I just think it's important that we, to the extent possible, make the world just a little bit better place by sharing some insight and some experience and helping others to be a little better at what they do on any given day. So
yeah, and from what we heard on the line already from a couple of folks is that there is some clear benefit to be had from the clients that get to use your platform. So it sounds like if there's any introductions that could be had, it does feel like there's an opportunity for a win-win across the board here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, really appreciate it. Yeah, really appreciate it.
And as we button it up here, why don't we go ahead and bring it home with closing remarks? Eric, share with folks why now is the perfect time to go to netcapital.com and invest in FCP Insight.
Yeah, we're ready to just go after it from a marketing standpoint in a major way. The vast majority of what we're looking to do is going to be in sales and marketing, and when I say in sales, I'm doing a fair percentage of the sales, so it's not like it's going out in commissions. It's literally reaching out to the right people and looking to bring them on board. And I think the wonderful thing is once our clients are on board, they don't take up a lot of time to maintain once we get them set up and off and running. So we will grow, the back end services a little bit, but it'll be time. We'll be making money by that point. So yeah,
Gasoline on the fire, putting dollars in to go on to accelerating the growth of the business, which is where a lot of investors like to be. So
yeah,
I'd love to take this moment. Thank you so much for the attendees and your thoughtful questions. Thanks for your feedback and your support for the company. We love that. That's so cool. As I mentioned earlier, you can go ahead and invest in FCP Insight. I added a link to that back into the chat. But again, you can go to netcapital.com/companies/FCP Insight, where you can go ahead and review the offering page, learn more, and if you are so inclined, you too can invest. And lastly, this has been recorded. So for anybody who missed the beginning or missed part of it or knows somebody who would have loved to have attended but was unable to, please go ahead and check out our YouTube account. We'll go ahead and get this chopped up and uploaded to the Netcapital YouTube. I added a link to that into the chat as well, but of course you guys go to YouTube and search Netcapital. This will be up there in the next couple hours, couple days, as soon as we can get the rest of the team to upload this. So that being said, do go ahead and check that out, share it with folks. Let's spread this broadly. And thank you so much, Eric, and your entire team for working with the Netcapitalists here and on the fundraise for FCP.
Eric, thank you for having us today. I hope you make it a wonderful day.
It's already great. It's already great. Thank you so much for the attendees. Awesome. People are here. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon.